welcome to the pitch of Discontent. This is Owen, back again for another solo episode. Yes, that's right. Paige is currently upstairs fulfilling mum duties, not really feeling up to ripping a pod, so it's just me, solo, back on the mic, down here, ripping through tracks. So let's just get through it, and I'm just going to smash through these with minimal fluff and circumstance. Before we get into the tracks for this release roundup, I do have a release from the previous week that we didn't get a chance to shout out on our last episode, which I feel like I should. This is the new release from a band called Crush Your Soul. The record is called Ice Water. This is a release that kind of caught me off guard for 2026, mainly just because of how fucking heavy it is. If you're into any kind of like beatdown adjacent hardcore stuff that is like very abrasive, very intense, but also has a couple of little curveballs, little kind of surprises in store for the average listener. You should check this one out. It's really dope. I think it's cool. It's probably going to make some kind of list of best ofs for this year, or at least the first half of the year. But I definitely think it's worth checking out. So wanted to shout it out at the top of the show. Without much further ado, I'm just going to get straight into the tracks for this week because I don't really have anyone else here to bounce off except you, the lovely viewer. So let's just fucking go. Hello, Owen popping in to say, please sign up for the TPD Patreon. This is what helps us keep the lights on and keep the show going. The link is at the bottom of your screen right now, patreon.com/tpdpod. All of our patrons get exclusive access to Side B of our Roundup episodes, so you get a few extra tracks, as well as our feature album discussion and the full show experience. Our patrons also get exclusive access to behind-the-scenes, off-the-cuff chit-chat from all of our guest episodes. But the patrons are the ones who make all of this happen. For as little as $5 a month, you can sign up to the TPD Patreon, and it really helps us out, really helps us keep the show going. So shout out to all of our patrons, shout out to our executive producer patrons, you're the real ones, and thank you so much for watching the show. All right, so ripping into side A for this release roundup, we have a new track from the Barbarians of California. And this is a band that we have featured on the show a couple of times before, most recently towards the end of last year with their song Modern Fashion. They have a new alt banger out. This one is called Bomb to a Knife Fight. Great title. And it very much follows on with the band's steeped tradition of West Coast punk hardcore lineage. You've got the hardcore punk ethos, you've got aggression, passion, there's like off-kilter melodicism going on, but also a big emphasis on groove. And the band features Aaron Bruno of AWOL Nation and Eric Steinman of Tin Fed. So they do have a bit of a pedigree when it comes to left of center groove worship, I would say. But this one, Bomb to a Knife Fight, is probably one of the heaviest songs that I've heard from this particular group. So it's an ode to raw fury and non-conformity. I have a statement from the band about the track. They say Bomb to a Knife Fight was the first song we completed after finishing our first ever tour with Deftones and Idols. Hell of a first tour. You'd have to imagine that the perspective of playing live every night played a part in the creation of this song. Also, our love of old school hip hop may shine through a little on this one. Fascinating stuff. Anyway, let's get into the track. Have a listen. This is the Barbarians of California, Bomb to a Knife Fight. Yeah, look, I don't know what to tell you. That is pure Barbarian right there. It is catchy, but also heavy. It has a little bit of the aggression and kind of the raw fury that we were talking about before, but it does have those little like doo-wop harmonies. It has like a catchy kind of chorus. Like the ear for melody has been present on every song that I've heard from this group, and this is no exception. Um, but definitely matching that or pairing that with some of the heavier stuff that they've put together as well, which is kind of sick. And I can kind of hear that this would really go over well live and seems designed to be executed live, which in that band statement, if you're on a tour playing every night before Idols and Deftones, you want to sharpen your live blade a little bit. You want to make sure that you're coming correct and your 20-25 minute slot is just hitting it so that the crowd is all G'd up, ready to go for those bands. So I can definitely see all of that. Yeah, cool track. I wonder if they're working on a release. There's been 3 singles that have dropped towards the end of last year, and now this new single for 2026. So perhaps we're getting a new record. Don't know. We'll find out. Next up for side A, we have indie punk outfit Cheap-Skate. This is the solo project of multi-instrumentalist Blake Murphy. Shout out to Blake. He dropped his self-released independent debut album. It was called Remember You Will Die. It dropped in May last year. And Blake actually shot me an email to the pod and was like, hey, I do this band. I kind of do everything myself. Would you give it a listen? And I did. And it was fucking cool. And now I get a chance to feature some new music from Blake on the show. So I'm stoked about that. His new project, even more audacious than self-recording and releasing an entire album's worth of music. This new project is called Cheap Year Volume 1, and it involves Blake writing, recording, and releasing one track every week for all of 2026. You're a madman, Blake. An absolute madman. That's crazy. The third single from that collection is called Wake Up. And I would say that if you're a fan of any of Australia's pedigree of indie punk giants, I'm thinking Dune Rats, I'm thinking DZ Death Rays, I'm thinking Violent Soho, what I am affectionately calling shoey rock. If you're a shoey rock head, Cheapskate should be right up your alley. Let's just jump in and have a listen. This is a quick one. This is Cheapskate. Wake Up. I'm always amazed that people can conceive of an artistic project, especially a musical one, and then execute every single aspect of it. From everything that I've seen, from everything that Blake has sent me, Cheapskate is entirely his creation, and he pretty much does almost every single aspect of it that I can tell, which I just think is so sick that you can wake up and have that complete creative vision in your head and be like, all right, I have the talent, the time, and the fortitude to see this through to completion. A project like Cheap Year Volume 1, where you're releasing a track every single week of the year, is insane. And I'm kind of excited to be along for the ride to see the variation of tracks that Blake can put together. That's a lot of tracks. It's like over 50 songs. So we'll see. We're three songs in, and he's got a lot to go. So keep your eyes peeled on this one, I would say. Let's move on. Next track for side A. This is a band that I have wanted to feature on the show for a while. I feel like I included them in the newsletter a long time ago, and maybe in subsequent years. I honestly can't remember. We're up to like 257 episodes, so it's difficult for me to remember every time that I featured a band, but wanted to talk about these guys in recent times. This is Las Vegas emotional hardcore outfit Roman Candle. They have come through with another new single ahead of what I would imagine is their debut release for Sumerian Records, whether that be an EP, a compilation collection of previously released material, a new album. I have no idea, but they're dropping singles. They're on a new label. I imagine there's a release forthcoming. The band first came on my radar through their Discount Fireworks EP, which dropped in 2022. Incredible release. Really kind of took the underground screamo world by storm. They have this molten blend of screamo with like hardcore, a little bit of metalcore heaviness in there, anchored by the creative core of vocalist Piper Ferrari and guitarist Jonas Visi. They've been touring with Dying Wish, Foreign Hands. They've played one-off shows with Touche Amore, Botch, Better Lovers, and more. So they're on big shows. They're on good tours. They're on a good label. Like everything is coming up for Roman Candle, but that debut release is going to be the big statement, I would think. This new track is called Can We Watch Something Happy? And it is a blistering meditation on faith and guilt. I have a quote here from Ferrari, who states, "I struggled with severe OCD growing up, which was intensified by being raised in a religious household. There was a constant cycle of praying for the intrusive thoughts to go away, eventually giving in to them, and then praying again for forgiveness. That's where the repeated one more time comes from. It wasn't about depression or suicidality. It was about trying to survive this overwhelming fear of thoughts I didn't want, and then feeling deep guilt because I believed even having those thoughts was a sin." That's fucked up. It's crazy that as a kid, as a child, that you would be put in that kind of mental torment, and only through reaching adulthood and having your frontal lobe develop can you begin to kind of unpack all of the stuff that's been projected onto you since you were a child. That's crazy. Let's have a listen to the song, because this one's a banger. This is Roman Candle. Can we watch something happy? Man, huge tune. The kind of like breakdown, kind of chug pattern stuff is super heavy, has like the intense kind of staccato riffage going on there, but then to juxtapose that with the really kind of like open chord melodic riff type stuff over the chorus, sick. And like it doesn't relent on the aggression, there isn't any part that I would call like the soft part or like the clean part. It's all kind of the same intensity, of the same aggression, but being able to go through those dynamic shifts makes it quite captivating. I mean, that's only like a 2 minute and 20-second song. So like it's very succinct. It gets in, gets out. It's not fucking around. I'm very excited to see what they're going to put together for a debut release for Sumerian. I think it might be some kind of contender for some kind of end of year stuff, but yeah, watch this space. We'll see what comes through. Let's keep going for side A. We have a new track from Meanjin Brisbane Hardcore Bruisers, Street Suffer. This is a new band for the pod. The band have linked up with Adelaide's Fortify Records. Shout out to Nick and Fortify. We featured them on the show last week for the new Stressed EP that's coming out. And this Street Suffer outfit have a upcoming self-titled EP through Fortify, and that's coming out on February 27th. I would say that this is a must-listen for fans of heavy beatdown, crowd kill music. You know the style. The band are going to be in Narm/Melbourne to support friends of the show Ends in Tragedy, who we had on the guest episode last week. You should go check that out. Really fun episode. But they'll be supporting Ends in Tragedy for their upcoming EP release show at the TOF on February 6th. If you want to get out to that show, grab tickets. I think there's still tickets available at the time of recording this. But yeah, you should go see them. It's going to be a good show. Let's have a listen to kind of the title track, I guess. This is Street Suffer. Yeah, that was pretty much exactly what it says on the tin. Heavy, aggressive, ignorant, crowd kill music. Don't really know what else to say about that. I'm looking at the album promo, or at least the single promo, and it's got like the black and white Xeroxed kind of like band promo insert. One of the dudes is clearly wearing what I believe is an On Broken Wings Mosh hoodie, the classic hoodie, and one of the other guys is wearing a Shackles tee, and I feel like that perfectly represents the mixture of aggressive tendencies that's going on here. Because to call your band Street Suffer, to call this single Suffer, and to have a sound this stupidly heavy definitely reminds me of Suffer by On Broken Wings. And if you know, you know the riff. Uh, this is sick. This is definitely heavy. Definitely something I want to keep an eye on. And I'm stoked for Fortify snatching these guys up, putting out an EP. Onwards and upwards. Let's get into the final track of side A for this week. This is Nam/Melbourne metalcore theatre kids, The Gloom in the Corner. They've come through with another teaser ahead of their third full-length album. The record is called Royal Discordance, and it's out on February 27th via Sharp Tone Records. Brand new single is called Nope, parentheses, Hollow Point Elysium. Very interesting title. This one is chock full of wild dynamic shifts. It's got some cheeky kind of pop culture nods going on. And my understanding is that the Gloom kind of narrative universe, what I would call the GCU, the Gloom cinematic universe, is being expanded on with every single release. So there's returning characters, themes, settings, lots of lore. If you're a lore head, there's stuff to dive into there. On the release of Nope, I have a statement from the band who say that Nope is an ode to some of my favorite action movies and video games growing up, a bullet ballet for metalcore that will, much like the definition of Hollow Point Elysium, blow your head smooth off. Damn, that's a statement. Let's just jump straight into the track. This is The Gloom in the Corner, Nope, Hollow Point Elysium.
Feeling sore, are you slipped from the disdain? Cabriole, fucking popping pills like Max Payne. Turns around and you miss till you're empty. John Woo takes notes on my gunplay. I suppose all of us, dragon breaks. Cross your world, stay high, fucking drama clean. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker, make it rain. Swept up in the eye as a hurricane.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy. Did it blow my head off smooth? Not quite, but it tried to. I was dodging the bullet ballet like fucking bullet time. But what an insane combo of lyrical nods, instrumental layers, strings, pick scrapes, fucking just mosh music, but then like very like unnerving spoken word from Mikey. Just an incredible kind of combination of sounds that I think only really Gloom could pull off. Very excited to hear Royal Discordance because it sounds like it's built for the immersive experience, the front to back listen, and I'm wondering where Nope fits in with that particular narrative episode or chapter or whatever it's trying to convey. Very interesting. We'll keep an eye on that. Let's move on to side B for this week. First up for side B for this release roundup, I have a new band on my radar. This is Holder from Western Massachusetts. They come from the hardcore scene. They're channeling this legacy of like late 90s, early 2000s screamo and post-hardcore. Similar in spirit to Roman Candle that we featured on side A earlier in the show. Holder have shared the stage with acts like Static Dress, Balmora, February, Sky Came Falling, many more. Excuse me. Too much coffee, burping on the mic. They've just dropped a new 2-song EP. This one is called Ruin the Best of Me. It's out now through Days. And I've got a video for the first track. because there's only two. The first track is Inconsolable. The second track is the title track, Ruin the Best of Me. Both of them rip, but I wanted to go through the video for Inconsolable. So let's just do that. This is Holder, Inconsolable. Yeah, I mean, that was over and done with, no fucking around. That sounds like exactly the type of shit that I would find kind of deep diving through like the Zegama Beach Bandcamp. Just like pure molten screamo, all of the little bits are there. You got some pretty guitar elements. You've got the banshee shriek vocals, but they've got enough kind of intensity and aggression in the riffage in different segments that it kind of keeps it engaging the entire way through. Like that track is a 2-minute track, it's not belaboring the point. It's getting through the execution in the way that they need to without kind of overstaying the welcome. Looking forward to more from Holder. And if you're into any kind of screamo, emotional, hardcore adjacent music, you should be getting around them because they're probably going to be the band to watch in that space, along with Roman Candle. 2 bands to watch. Let's move on to the next one for side B. This is another new band on my radar. This is Baltimore heavy hitters S.E.T, and the S.E.T being an acronym for Self-Evident Truth. This is a group that features former members of Turnstile, End It, as well as an original founder of Flat Spot Records. The group have unveiled a new single called TMT, and that is part of their debut EP, which is the kind of self-titled Self-Evident Truth. That comes on March 6th through Flat Spot Records. This is full of hardcore, 2-step energy, big swaggering grooves, the drops. You know what it is. It's street hardcore. I've got a quote here from vocalist Tim, who states, "We live in a society, especially now with this current administration, where the people up top try to defy the truth through propaganda, war, racism, and all forms of authoritarian ideas. I wanted this release to define what we are and what we believe the truth is." Word. Self-evident. Let's just jump straight into it. This is the S.E.T TMT. I do believe that is the truth. That rips. That's pretty much exactly what they said it would be. And again, like lots of short songs on this episode. I didn't kind of do that deliberately, but we're really just kind of powering through these songs here. I'm excited to hear the EP. I want to see what other kind of moods and styles the set are going to bring together. But if TMT is kind of like the original statement, the debut single, then it's just going to be heavy. It's going to have swagger, it's going to have groove, and it's going to just get to the point. Yeah, I'm excited. Flat Spot. Not fucking around. Not doing anything wrong. They know exactly what they're doing. Let's get into the last track for side B before we get into the feature album. This was a late inclusion in this week's episode. This is the forthcoming album from Australian progressive death metalers Growth. They have a new LP. It's called Under the Under, set for release on March 27th through Wild Thing Records. This is the second album in a planned trilogy that, quote, illustrates pathways of recovery while acknowledging the most dread-filled aspects of it. That's grim. This is the lead single, Remember Me as Fire, and the first taste of new music since their critically acclaimed 2020 debut album, The Smothering Arms of Mercy. I do remember listening to that record, but it was kind of in the COVID plague years, so it's kind of been pushed to the back of my mind for a number of reasons. But keen to see them back, keen to hear a full new record from Growth. But this new single absolutely shreds. So let's just jump straight into that. This is Growth, Remember Me as fire.
Remember me as failures, blinding gnosis, fathered into disarray, mothered into abandoned, discarded, a body of midnight.
Holy shit. That's incredible. So technical, so many layers, just like an incredible sense of atmosphere and really kind of directing the mood of the listener. Just grim all around, which for a progressive death metal outfit is exactly the kind of place that you want the listener to be. I would venture kind of a step up from the previous material, or at least what I remember that record sounding like. This is darker, more intense, more technical, just all around heavier in every kind of aspect. I'm fucking with it a lot. I think Under the Under is going to be an incredible record. Maybe a contender for one of the best Australian heavy releases of the year. So very excited to hear that. And that brings the side A-B track selection to a close for this release roundup. I have a cool feature album to talk about, so I'm going to do that now. And I will do another cool transition. You're welcome. All done. Beautiful. Let's get into the feature album for this week, and then we can wrap up the show nice and neat. We have longtime friends of the show, New Miserable Experience. They have dropped their new record, Gild the Lily, through Pelagic Records. New Miserable Experience have been long-time supporters of the show since, I think, the very beginning of doing the pod and running the Instagram and kind of putting some of our content out there. They've always been supporters of the show. We had frontman Dave Grossman on the show in kind of mid-2024 to talk about the first debut LP from the supergroup, Absent Lovers. It's back when we were an audio-only show, so it's only available on Spotify, but you can go find it and listen to it. It's a cool episode. Great chat with Dave. He came through with some incredible track selections as part of the playlist for that episode. But yeah, I got a lot of love for Dave and for New Miserable Experience. They really have been big supporters of the show. So there was no way I wasn't going to talk about this record because I love to see them evolving on each subsequent release and doing cool new stuff. So let's talk about Gild the Lily. So I feel like that this record is expanding on the band's heavy music pedigree and really kind of melding the synth rock meets 80s new wave influences. You've got members that previously played in Rosetta. You've got members that played in Rivers of Nihil. So they have the extreme metal pedigree down, but this project is very much hitting a completely different register and folding in a bunch of different disparate influences while keeping that kind of, I guess, tightness that comes with playing various kinds of extreme heavy music. So I think they bring, I don't know, a certain kind of tone and atmosphere to this kind of, I guess you would call it like synth rock or new wave kind of music. I got a quote here from Dave where he's talking about the kind of creative process behind Gild the Lily. He says, "We started saying infinite sadness as a bit of a catchphrase with the last album. I think that sums up the vibe of the album and project overall. We are very much in the sad boy world with Jeff Buckley, Puma Blue, Radiohead, Deftones, Black Queen." And I think that's exactly right. Like, if you were to create a very elaborate Venn diagram of all those different kind of bits of moody music, New Miserable Experience sit perfectly in the center of all those disparate moods. And the new record is no exception. It has some of my favorite tracks from the group. I'm going to jump into one of those right now. This is New Miserable Experience, House of Denial.
Some scars never vanish. Endure loneliness with grace. Build walls to
beautiful song from New Miserable Experience and a very haunting vocal performance from Dave on that one. I feel like of all the tracks on the record, that might be one of the most or one of the more subdued. It really is just kind of going off a very simple kind of like little backbeat with that delicate guitar lick. But I feel like Dave's lyrics on this one are maybe some of the best he's ever penned. There's a particular kind of like line here where it's like, endure loneliness with grace, build walls to hide the disgrace. I'm afraid of being afraid. And I feel like that's just such an interesting kind of juxtaposition that, you know, it's hard to be lonely, especially in the society that we live in where social atomization is kind of the given. And every aspect of capitalist society tries to reinforce that sense of atomization by reaffirming that, you know, we are only individuals, individual responsibility and liberty are the most paramount things, and that fostering any sense of collective ideals or community is kind of frowned upon because why would you want to rely on other people when you could be self-sufficient? But what Dave's kind of getting at here with House of Denial is that, like, you know, we deny the best aspects of ourselves when we refuse to engage with other people, when we refuse to be human by engaging with the human, the self outside of the self. You know, like it takes a lot of patience to endure loneliness, but we put up a lot of walls to prevent people from getting in. And there are a lot of people in this world that are afraid of being afraid. And that is a dark path and a dark spiral that can only really be overcome by tearing down those walls and letting other people in. So, yeah, I just think an incredible sentiment, a great vocal performance, a very kind of subdued track from New Miserable Experience, but definitely one of my favorites. I have another quote here from Dave about the record. And he says, the songs cover a range of topics, but the idea of Gild the Lily is trying to improve what is already beautiful or excellent. I took that as generally being a negative thing. Humanity messes with things that are already excellent, beautiful, perfect, etc., and we ruin them. The song Perfect Things touches on this topic the most. And with that kind of note, I wanted to feature Perfect Things as it's one of my favorite songs on the record. But I do think that idea kind of is spiritually aligned with what he's talking about on House of Denial, that the fear of being afraid is a fear of potential, and potential isn't necessarily a positive thing. It can be a negative thing. We all have the potential to do horrible things, to ruin perfect things, to take what is good and corrupt it and turn it into something evil. And one of the like life affirming aspects of a community, of a society and a civilization is that collectively together we're supposed to strive for something that is better. We're supposed to be improving iteratively, cumulatively on the things that have come before to make a better world for the people who come after us. And I feel like perhaps we've lost sight of that, or we're too distracted by the constant bombardment of media saturation that tells you that everything is fucked and that there is no possible way forward. And I don't think that's the case all the time. And I think if you can tune out some of that noise, you can realize that we are capable of a much greater potential, a much more positive potential, and that all we really need is the will to actualize it, and we can start achieving great things. We can start making perfect things again. So again, I think Dave is a very, very adept lyricist, and I think some of the best songs on this record really do shine because of his lyricism and his very restrained vocal performance. But let's get into the final track for this release roundup. This is New Miserable Experience, Perfect Things. crazy switch ups on that one. You can definitely hear the Nine Inch Nails and kind of Black Queen influence going on there. It's kind of remarkable that, like, for guys all coming from that extreme heavy music scene, there isn't a single like live drum on this entire record. It's all like drum loops, synthesizers, drum machines, etc. And to hear them be so like proficient in that world as well, I think is kind of crazy. There's so much going on this song. There's so many different kind of like wild switch ups, but it kind of comes through with that fast industrial kind of undercurrent. But again, it's Dave's lyrics and his vocal performance that really kind of anchors the whole thing together, and really kind of becomes the thematic kind of center piece of Gild the Lily. Because he's directly referencing, why do we gild the lily? Why do we make something that's already perfect more perfect? And in that desire and in that conceit, potentially corrupt it and destroy it. To put that kind of thematic intent over a track this pulsating and kind of rave worthy, I think is an inspired choice. And that's why they're one of my favorite bands. And I'll forever ride with what they do because they are so creatively in tune and in sync with each other that they keep creating stuff that leaves me guessing, like, well, what are they going to do next? Yeah, phenomenal band. Shout out to Dave. Shout out to the whole band. Go listen to New Miserable Experience. Go listen to Gild the Lily. If you need a palate cleanser from your punk, your hardcore, your metalcore, whatever, definitely a good record by a bunch of people who know what the fuck they're doing. And I back it. I support it. That brings us to the end of the release roundup for this week. I know it's been a short one, a fast one, but hey, it's a solo episode. I got dad duties to get back to. I got to go play with my dog. You know how these things go. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for rocking with the show. Subscribe. Send this to someone who you think would enjoy it. What are you listening to? Do you have new songs? Have you found a cool band that no one else is talking about? Send it to me. I'll talk about it. I love listening to new music. Thank you very much for tuning into the show. We appreciate you. I'll catch you next week. Peace.